Hallelujah.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. We are now approaching one of the most interesting sessions of this conference. A session where we have 3 panelists. In fact, there are 2, but one is a moderator. All of them, their details are given on our books. 49 and 150, 158 and 159. So together with me today, we have Sister Joan Mulera, who happens to be a researcher at Cambridge. The other details, you'll see them on your program. It is a great privilege to us to have Joan today, because when COVID-19 struck Kenya, and through the leadership of Clark, we came together to find out how we can guide our churches. And our General Superintendent, Judge Malimo, led us to find Joan. And Joan is the one who formulated the guidelines that we are using as a church to respond to COVID-19 as we worship and we are also fellowship together in our meetings. And so she is here today. You have heard about her, you have seen her on television, but today you are going to see her live. Say many amen. We also have our sister, and I like this. This sister is a psychologist proper. Hawa ni wale watu ambao wamesomea akili zetu. Wanaweza kuangalia mienendo yetu na wakatushauri na tukasaidika. Watu wa namna hii mara kwa mara hawaongei mambo mengi sana. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. They do a lot of listening. And in their listening, they help us solve our problems. Together with us is Sister Edith Wasike. Edith fellowships at Langata, monthly meeting. And our Sister Joan fellowships at Donholm, monthly meeting. And today, they will be assisting us with the questions which are already in our booklet. And we expect also to be guided in that formula. And so, brothers and sisters, this session of today will be also moderated by our own Dr. Hastings Ozwara, who happens to be the clerk of Ngong Road. And he also works as a very great researcher, as a director, and is the one who has also given us an opportunity today to participate in one of the most expensive exercises of COVID-19 testing. And remember, if you test today and you're given a certificate, wherever you go, they always ask for that certificate. Are we together? This is an opportunity that has come with us. Very expensive testing, but he has decided to do it for the love of Christ through his church. And so I want us to stand together as we commit this session in prayer, and I'll be inviting our moderator to take over and guide this discussion. Heavenly Father, we thank you because if it was not your grace, we will not have assembled here with a lot of expectations and hope like the way we are now. And now that you have provided your servants, even further to shape our thinking and our actions, we pray that you begin with them and end with them. For this is the resource that you have given this church. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Thank you so much. Welcome, Dr. Tari.
Praise God. Praise God, the 33rd Nairobi Yearly Meeting Annual General Conference. God is good. And all the time. Amen. At this time, our organizers thought well that we should have at least a different way of listening to our speakers. So they organize a type of event that you normally see on television called a town hall session. So I'm calling it a town hall session. So this is a session where we all participate in the discussions, but we have experts to guide us, to give us more professional and more deeper insight into the issues we are discussing. And so how we will handle it is that I will lead the asking of the questions, invite our panelists insight into responding to the questions, and then I come to you for your input. And then we end that particular discussion. We move to the second one until we do our third one, and I think we have about just slightly less than 1.5 hours to finish that particular session. Are we well guided, Quakers? Although the GS has given an introduction, the role of the moderator, first one, is to do introductions. I start with myself. My name is Hastings Ozwara. I have a Doctor of Philosophy in Molecular Parasitology, and I work at the Institute of Primate Research, which was started in 1958. Research leads to vaccines, drugs, medical devices, like what you have on your mouths, against human conditions for improved human health. We are located somewhere in Karen. What we do is similar to what Kenya Medical Research Institute does. The only difference is that our main experimental animal is the baboon and monkeys, and the main experimental animal for Kenya Medical Research Institute is the human being. Are we getting that difference? But when we are inside our laboratories, we are doing practically and technically the same things. That is why, coincidentally, we are both testing centers, but KEMRI is ahead, is obviously the national focal point for the process. Sisi tuna wasaidia tu. So now let's start with our panelists. If we go to page 158 of your conference manual, our first panelist is our sister Edith Wasike Sakwa. Edith is the founder, Flourish Counseling Services Kenya, a professionally qualified counseling psychologist with a master's degree in counseling psychology and a strong background in social work. She's also a member of the Kenya Counseling and Psychological Association and fellowships in our Langata monthly meeting. So our areas of expertise include anxiety issues, depression, parenting. We always complain about parenting, grieving, adjustment issues, drug and substance abuse. She also upholds good working conduct by maintaining competence, professional development, and integrity. This was of so much interesting to me that Edith has a personal approach in using what we call a biopsychosocial spiritual model of mental health. And remember, Quakers, mental health is a major aspect of the COVID problem. The problem is that we never know that we are sick mentally until something goes horribly wrong. So we'll expect that Edith will also explain a bit about this so that we can understand better how we can apply it in our current COVID challenge. So Quakers, join me in heartily and strongly and spiritually welcoming Edith. Edith Salimia. We are being advised that the media team is having a problem capturing us. We give them a minute to reorganize us. Sorry for that short inconvenience. We know we will need at least 2 microphones. Huh? You can do when I invite you.
Okay. So you'll moderate while sitting. Or just sitting, then they'll speak while they're sitting.
That's okay. That's okay. So, members, they have removed the dais, so we will moderate while sitting, which is good. So where I'd reached, I had invited our sister to just greet us.
Yeah, this morning I'm very humbled to be in your midst. I want to thank God for this opportunity. I pray that we are going to be blessed in this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Edith. Our next panel is Dr. who is also a Quaker. Let the name not scare you. She fellowships at Donholm monthly meeting. Joanne is a member of the COVID testing team at Kemri, a molecular virologist from the Center for Virus Research at the Kenya Medical Research Institute. She's also a member of our NYM task force for reopening meetings and has been instrumental in generating the current protocols that we use in our church community. She has over 15 years as a molecular virologist with the Kenya Medical Research Institute. So Joanne is a colleague, almost in the same profession. I said I'm a molecular parasitologist, she's a molecular virologist. I've been practicing for 30 years, 15 years, and so we are in very safe hands. Join me in welcoming Joanne Hassan Mulera. Joanne Salimia Conference.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe.
Amen.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe.
Amen.
I hope you are coping well. This is a new normal where you cannot meet your friend and hug them when you've not seen them in a long time. And I'm happy to be here, happy to do work for Christ, because as much as I'm a molecular biologist, I'm also a Christian at the end of the day, and it's my duty to marry the science and the church. So that's the reason we are here. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. So I will start by inviting each of the panelists to make some statements. I'm sure they must have prepared something to professionally greet us with. And then after that, we go to our discussion topics. Let's remember we are discussing COVID-19. It is a pandemic that has reorganized our lifestyle, as we know. Worldwide, we have almost 100 million positive cases that have been tested, and almost 1.5 million deaths worldwide, almost 1,600 deaths among us Kenyans. In terms of those positive in Kenya, we're also nearing 100,000 cases. And so it's a serious problem, has crippled our economy. And it's important that we hear from the experts so that we can understand it from COVID professionals, and also we can understand how to cope from counseling, psychologists, experts. Thank you. So let me first invite Edith to make some statements. Before then, I'll invite our colleague Joanne. Edith, karibu.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so from the counseling perspective, I want us to, there's a presentation that I will be projecting, so I'll go through it very fast and then we come to the session. So I am a counseling psychologist, the moderator has said, and I'll be focusing on the psychological effects of COVID, and also I'll be able to talk about the role of NYM in mitigating some of these psychological effects. So we all know that as a country, we've been in this situation for almost 10 months now. But for the countries where it started, it's now 1 year because it started in December. So most of the time, we've been shown on television and other social media about the physical symptoms. We know of the symptoms that we need to look out for, the chill, the cough, all those. But rarely do we take time to look at the psychological effect of what COVID-19 is causing to every person that is going through this. Even with the numbers that are being reported, they only focus on the sick, the people that have been infected. But if we were to look at the numbers of people that have been affected psychologically, I think every one of us can attest to this, that we are all affected. We can say that COVID-19 has brought with us a psychological crisis. So we are in a psychological crisis because many people are living in fear. Many people are living in anxiety. And this anxiety is because of the uncertainty. We don't know where we are going. We don't know for how long we're in this state. You also find that other than the anxiety of the unknown, we are also isolating ourselves very much. Looking at the guidelines, we were told to social distance, but most of us are doing what we call social isolation. So we end up isolating ourselves too much, and when we are isolated, people are going through what we call loneliness. So that is another psychological effect. Kindly, the media, keep on running the slides. Yeah, so some of the psychological challenge, you find they are going through loneliness. We can also say that our frontline workers, who are the medics, go through what we call compassion fatigue. But in this context, I want to focus on our pastors, on our leaders. You find that when our members are struggling psychologically, the first person we call is our pastors. So I'm very sure our pastors are also going through what we call compassion fatigue. And who is taking care of our pastors? We look at that. I also want to say that there is a lot of low self-esteem issues. If you take time and interact with people and realize the way they're behaving, people have lost their esteem. Reason being, a lot of us found validation in different things. We found validation in our works. We found our validation. Can I just? Yeah, we found our validation in our families. But looking at what is happening, you find that our families are in crisis. So I have nothing to identify with. Maybe I've lost my job. I have nothing to identify with. And therefore, people are losing their esteem because nothing is validating them, their identity, their sense of belonging. It's very important that we need to change our look on ourselves and find true identity, not identifying ourselves in the things that we've been doing. There's social stigma around us because of the disease. Just from the first patient when it was reported, a lot of people got into fear, and the way it was presented, it caused a lot of stigma. And therefore, it has affected people in a way of going for testing. You find many people fear going for testing because of how people are going to take them. When the issues of quarantine, when the issue of contact tracing came, we all were fearful because no one wanted their families to go through that kind of treatment. Therefore, it caused the stigma. Maybe that was the only way the government could have done, but we never looked at the psychological effect of those processes as we were doing the social tracing and the quarantine. Loss and grief is a psychological effect to this pandemic we are in. I can say for sure that we are all grieving. If there's anyone in our midst who has not lost anything, just carry up your hand. We've lost a lot of things. It's either you've lost your loved ones, you've lost your health, or someone, your relative, is battling with this disease or any other disease due to their health. Maybe you've lost your job. Maybe you're anticipating to lose your job. Your business is going down. Your marriage is shaking. That is a loss. So we are all grieving, but we don't have time to go through the grieving process because things are too fast for us. And therefore, you find people are postponing the grieving process. This might come back later. Maybe 10 years down the line, you'll find people going through what we call complicated grieving. Work-life balance is also a psychological challenge. People are struggling, balancing between work and normal life. Families are suffering because now the fear of losing our jobs. We have to put our energy in doing this work, and therefore we miss out on other activities. Some people were very happy when we started working from home. We thought we'll have time to do other things. But it's like people have carried their offices to their homes again because now they're working too much compared to the way you'll work in the office, thinking of traffic jam. Now you're in the house and you can work through. You end up not being able to balance your work, to balance life. We have relationship conflicts, and this I can say that it's not just in our families, even in our churches. You see the conflicts arising by how members are relating to each other, conflicts between leaders and members, even conflicts between pastors and leaders. So this is because of the unprocessed tension, the tension that we have caused by this pandemic. I want to say addiction is also another thing that we are also going through as a nation. Pastor talked about the addiction of the teenagers getting into social media. Yes, this is very, very on the high rise. Teenagers and other young people are getting into addiction on social media. And not only social media, but specific things like pornography. There's addiction to betting, addiction to sex, addiction to work. You become a workaholic. So we are also going to, and it is a psychological challenge. If not checked, we might end up getting into mental health problems. We have depression. Normally, when you look at the signs of depression, we say it has to last for at least a minimum of 2 weeks. Ask yourself, the way you've been feeling, you've gone through to 10 months. How are you mentally? You could be depressed, who knows? It is important for us to have these sessions so that we are able to understand what are the signs to look out for when it comes to a depression. And lastly, we can say that there are a lot of deaths related to suicide. And it's because of depression. If it's not picked up very fast, you find people just committing suicide. And this is not just to the worldly people. This is happening in our church. So I want to say that there is no health without mental health. We could be in our houses avoiding walking outside because we don't want to be infected. But if we are not taking care of our mental health, we as well as ill people. So maybe let me just define what mental health is, because I'm saying we need to emphasize mental health as a church. So according to the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of well-being where individuals, you and me, need to recognize my potential. Am I aware of my potential? I'm able to cope normally with the stresses of life, because there'll be stress in life, yeah? Then you also be able to work productively and fruitfully and make an impact in your society. So this is the definition of who a mental health person is. So you can assess yourself and see, are you living within your potential? Are you productive? Are you making an impact? Yeah. So once you know that mental health is a major problem that has been caused by, we can't really say it has been caused by COVID. These issues have been there. It's only that COVID has been like a wake-up call. It has opened up everything, and now we can see what is happening in our families. So how can I tell that I have maybe mental health challenges? I'm not looking at the mental health, the disorders, the schizophrenia, the depression, the anxiety disorders. I'm just looking at the normal mental health problems. Some of the signs, we can say that look at your eating and sleeping patterns. So start thinking about your way of life, your eating and sleeping patterns. If they have been affected in the last maybe 1 month or even the 10 months you have had this problem, it's either you sleep too much or you've lost your sleep, you lack sleep, you're eating too much or you're not eating. That is one indication. Another sign is isolation. Are you isolating yourself too much? Are your relatives, your church members, are they isolating themselves? They want to withdraw. That is another red flag. Levels of energy. You can tell as you wake up. Are you pushing yourself just to do things, to go to work, or you still have the energy that you had? Having unexplained pains and what we call aches. You find people complaining of headaches, stomachache, backache. You go for checkup, there's nothing. So these unexplained aches are also an indication that there's something happening in your mental health. Feeling hopeless and helpless is also a major sign. It is okay to feel worried. It is okay to be anxious. But when you get to a point whereby you're helpless, it means you've lost option. You're giving up. There's nothing you're holding on to. You don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. That is an indication that you're struggling mentally. Getting into drugs, maybe you've not been doing drugs, or someone you know has been doing drugs, but they're now doing it more than they used to. That is something we need not to ignore and say he's just used to drinking. No, that is a red flag. You're also feeling confused. I don't know if people are experiencing this. You're so confused. You keep on forgetting things. You're angry. You're just on the edge, waiting to be triggered. And you see people exploding. You wonder, I just told this person to do this, but the way they're behaving, it's like something else is being projected. So these are some of the signs. For parents, you can also notice that this time a lot of parents are struggling with their children. You keep on yelling and causing fights in the house. It's very important to know that yelling, if you're to look at the issue that the child has done, it has nothing to do with that. You're projecting your anger, your frustration to your children. Experiencing mood swings, being with persistent thoughts that you can't get out of your head, hearing voices and believing in things that do not exist. These are just but signs of a mental health person. You may not be in the severe, but there are signs that you need to be on the lookout. And maybe being unable to even perform daily activities like going to church, maybe just being in the family and doing what you used to do. So this is also an indication that something is not going right.
So let me stop you there.
Yeah.
So you've had that strong, useful intervention to give us some background information, understanding psychosocial, psychological issues. But now let's come to our question, which we will invite Edith to answer, which is, how has the COVID-19 pandemic affected Quakers with reference to social concerns and psychological issues? So Edith, how has it happened? How has COVID-19 affected Quakers specifically in relation to psychological and social concerns?
Okay, so COVID-19 has affected Quakers. As I was talking to general, everyone, but I want to say the psychological effects that I've indicated in the beginning are the challenges that we are facing as Quakers, as individuals, as families. So you find that as much as we are restricted to coming to church in large numbers, so many people are following sermons online, but you find that a lot of people are going through what we call withdrawal challenges. They're isolating themselves, and it's because of the stress level that they're going through. So looking at those psychological effects is exactly what we are going through as Quakers. We are not exempted because we are Christians. We are struggling mentally. That's all that I can say.
Thank you. So I think Quakers, like other Kenyans, we have faced the same challenges. We have lost jobs. We fear that the next person next to you will infect you. We fear that the lifestyle of our family members will bring in the problem. Challenges in holding our nominations on time. We had challenges on how we attended our services. And so the effect was across board. Now hear from members. How have you been affected socially and psychologically by the COVID-19 pandemic, so that our experts can give us more insight into what is going on? Do we have a microphone going around? Oh, I think the panel is having all the microphones. Are you able to shout? Yes, I can try to recite your question, yes. Yes, Gladys Luceno from Makadara Monthly Meeting. So the first question is it right for members to receive their COVID results over the phone? So if we tested you and we found, let's say you are positive, is it right for us to call you and tell you you are positive? That is our first question.
Are positive, and you can imagine what the person goes through, mentally affected, psychologically affected. What have you done as a psychologist to ensure, because most of these depressions are coming when the members are getting results over the phone. Some of them, they don't even disclose to the families. They wait for 3 to 5 days, and during that time the infectivity rate is very high. Please share for us that. The third one for the psychologist who has talked is about the processes of depression. What has she done with her company to support the Friends Church to teach the members on the processes of denial? Because you know the impacts of depression. and it has its processes. Thank you.
So, welcome, Edith. So, the issues around how we deliver the results, how the members get affected when they receive the results, psychologically, socially, and also, in the end, what is depression? Can you take us through the processes of depression? Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so to begin with the first question, if it is ethically okay to give results, COVID results over the phone, from where I'm standing, I would say that it is unethical because calling me and telling me that you've tested positive, you've not catered for my psychological reaction. One thing, this is a loss I'm going to experience. It's a loss of my health. Just like any person will be called and told you have cancer. So I'll go through what we call loss and grief. It needs to be, if I've come for counseling, and I've seen this with many now organizations embracing psychological support, they invite the professionals to do what we call debriefing. They prepare they prepare that person or the group of people that needs to get their results. They are debriefed on what to expect. And then when they're given the results, they're also taken through the same process whereby you want to hear how they feel and just find out where they are so that you're able to ensure that you're releasing this person who is in a stable condition. So normally, when you call me and tell me that, the first thing I'll get into shock. As a person, I'll be shocked, and you see when you're shocked, you do different things. There are those who scream, there are those who become numb, there are those who become violent. You need to think about that. After getting shocked, I'll be angry. I'll get angry because that's a normal loss. I'll get angry with the person who is calling me. I'll be angry with the people in my house because I'll think that they're the ones who've caused. I'll get into anger. From there, I'll start now bargaining. It is not something you do in one day. You might go through those stages for several days. But what I'm saying is before you get to the acceptance stage, that yes, I have this disease, you need to go through a series of phases, which we call grieving stages. So calling may not be, it's okay, I know my status, but you've affected me mentally unless you are sure that someone else will come in to support this person psychologically. Another thing, you talked about the processes of depression. So depression is a mental health disorder. It is a mood disorder. And some of the signs that we look out for depression, we say, number one is extreme sadness. If someone is generally sad, and these signs should have been there for at least 2 weeks. Not that if you do something to me today and I'm sad, you say I'm depressed. No, it should have been there for at least 2 weeks. So sadness, inability to perform normal duties. You also find that not doing things that you enjoy doing. You no longer feel like doing those things. You feel tired, fatigued most of the time. You feel a sense of worthlessness. You also feel suicidal most of the time. So these are just but some of the signs that we check out in depression. So you've asked the support I've given to the French church. I would say that I have not been able to go out to the entire French church, but I've begun this in my Langata local church where we've introduced, we have a topical issue in relation to mental health before the preacher comes in, just to help people relate with what they're going through. Another thing, we are also doing a lot of training and allowing people to ask questions. So the reason why I thought we need to come in, the reason why I really appreciate this session is we're able now to reach out to all Quakers because yes, we want to grow spiritually. But if I'm struggling mentally, then it means I may not be able to grow, and even thinking of what is my pastor going through, because my work as a member is just to offload my challenges, my troubles to the pastors. How are they surviving? So we've started at Langata local meeting doing mental health talks and some of the recommendations that I've given in my presentation.
Thank you. So just as a follow-up, advise us, those who test and deliver the results. How should we deliver the COVID results to the patients?
Okay, for those who test, I know there's also the medical aspects. They also have their guidelines. Now, from the psychological aspect, I would advise that if people are going to be given, have been tested, it is important to, and that's why it's important to integrate the psychological support in any form of treatment. So I'll suggest that in any hospital, in any organization that is sending their people for testing, ensure that you have a professional therapist or counseling psychologist who can come in to first debrief the members before they are given their results, and then after they have been given the results, we also need to take them through the process so that when they are leaving, we are not sending people to early graves because of the stresses involved in that.
Thank you. Our participants online, is there a question? Is there a question from our members online? Well, if they have, we can pick later. Can we pick one more question when we go to our next speaker? At the back, the hand came up first at the back. Your name is Lydia who?
My name is Lydia. My name is Lydia Masambu from Kariobangi Monthly Meeting.
Welcome, Lydia.
Thank you. My question to the councillor would be: we have the Sunday school children within us. These children have not been in school since March. The children cannot play. The children cannot go to Sunday school. Most of them. The children cannot go out and play with the children. The children cannot have their birthdays as usual. This is a new norm for them, and explaining to the lower children, that is aged between 1 to around 8 years, is kind of a problem. So for the categories of children, just as a counselor, maybe you can guide us as parents on how to handle this. Because like for these lower ones, I have one who is around 3. And we are seeing a lot of reactions, like just making the house upside down because of these reactions. So as a parent, how do you come in? How do you come in to assist these children? Then number 2, we have the ages of 9 to around 15 who lock themselves in the bedroom with the phones and the laptops. We don't know what to do and how to control this. Of course, we have the protector and monitoring of what you can see. But if they tell you they're on Zoom call with their friends, then you don't know what they speak about. How do we monitor this, and how do we stop them from getting into acts that we find some of them getting into? And then we have the elder ones who are just there. We don't know what they are thinking. We don't know what they are saying because they are quiet. So as parents, how do we tap this right from the beginning? Thank you.
Thank you. So the issue is, how do we parent from the small ones to the middle ages to the elder ones? It is a challenge to all of us. Welcome.
Okay, for the parents, I want to say that, as I said earlier, COVID-19 was just a wake-up call to us. Some of the challenges we are going through has been there. It's only that we've been busy, not noticing them, but now we are in the house and we're able to see what is happening. So one thing I'll say to parents is, number 1, we need to be aware. What we call self-awareness is very important, because you could be very busy trying to bring up this child and help this child, but you're also not aware of what you're going through as a parent. So the first thing is to look inwardly at yourself, because you could be the one projecting this and making your children to react that way. So once you are aware of yourself, be real and know your struggles and your fears and the challenges you're going through as a person, and try to come to terms with what is happening. Number 2, once you are at a good place as a person, as an individual, then it is important to first understand what is going on in terms of, do you understand COVID-19 and its implication on us as a person? Because you cannot talk to people if you don't have that information with yourself. Understand exactly, then be able to talk to these children in an appropriate age. You don't just scare them with just with information that is going to threaten them. You give them age-friendly information by letting them understand that we are living in this pandemic and what is causing the pandemic. Let them understand. If you tell them you're not going to play outside, as a parent, provide an alternative. You can't tell a child, sit in the house, and you leave them with gadgets. At the same time, you don't want them to use the gadgets. Provide alternatives to those plays. Be creative as a parent. Another thing is, children is monkey see, monkey do. So most of us as parents, we say, don't do this. But daddy is so immersed in the phone, someone is in the laptop, whatever we are doing right now, our children are able to observe and they do exactly what we do. So we need to parent from awareness. We need to be mindful of every action we do as a parent because the children learn by observing but not by hearing. They'll hear, yes, but they pick a lot when they observe what elders or adults are doing. With the adults, you talked about the elders. These elders, I want to assume, are now elderly in age. They also need to be given information on what is happening. Yeah, they need to be given and let them suggest ways of how to manage themselves. But if you're able to manage the children, the adults are able to fit in. So the biggest challenge we have right now is the children. How do we manage our children? So let's all be creative. Let's enjoy this parenting process because we've been so busy working and doing other things. So I think God has created a chance for us to go back home and ask ourselves, where can we change and do it right? If we have a very shaky family, that is why we are seeing a lot of challenges in our churches. Yeah, so.
Thank you. So children are monkey see, monkey do, and therefore as adults we avoid monkey business. Do we have a question online? Now, if we don't have a question online, let's appreciate Edith for her contribution. Thank you very much, Edith. We may call you back later if we still have some time. I know the questions are many. So there was a hand online. We'll give you some time later. Let's listen to Joanne a bit, and then we'll come back if there's still time to edit. Joanne, let me give you some time to make some statements, and then we can go into our town hall session. Can we get support from our technical teams? So Dr. Joanne will help us address the question of what is the place of faith and science in bringing a relief to the pandemic. Welcome, Dr.
Okay, I'll say hello again to everyone. Oh.
Yeah, you want?
Okay. I'll say, I think it's good afternoon now.
Yes, it is.
Before I speak further, I would like to at least introduce the love of my life, my husband. He's in the crowd. It's not proper that I
He can stand and wave.
Alan? Yes, that's Alan Mulera, my husband, father to my children, my support system, and my friend. So let's go to COVID, now that at least I've introduced him. Now, for me, I was to discuss the role of Nairobi early meeting in COVID-19 scenario. So I want to go through the highlights. So the areas I'm going to cover is the current COVID-19 status globally versus the Kenya status, why we go for the test, what to expect when you go for a COVID test, what happens when you test positive, effects of COVID-19 to various aspects in the community, and the role of the church in this. Next slide. Okay, it's very hard to read from here. No, let me. It will help me see my slides. Sorry for that. Sometimes when you decide to leave your glasses at home, you suffer the consequences. So this is the current status we are having. Every day when you're watching news, you are told exactly what's happening. So, as per today, as per yesterday, let me say, or today, the cases globally are at 70 million. So it says a lot about where we are as far as COVID is concerned. Then in Kenya alone, we are at 90,978. The recovered are 71,579. And we are having 1,582 deaths so far. This is not easy for anyone to take in, because yesterday alone, we had 673 new cases, with 14 people mourning for the loss of their loved ones. And this gives like a 1.73 fatality rate. Now, there are various reasons why we go for COVID testing. When you're traveling, there are some countries that require that you have to do a COVID test before you go there. When you're hospitalized and you're having symptoms that are related to COVID, you'll have to be tested. When you're reporting to a new workstation, you have to be tested. When you suspect that you've been exposed to the virus, you have to be tested. When you're living in the areas we call hotspots where the COVID rate is high, you can find yourself volunteering to be tested. For health workers, it's mandatory. After every 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, you have to test for COVID because you're getting exposed to people and you're exposing yourself to the public. You need to know your status so that you don't infect others. Then people who are exposed to individuals who have tested positive or people who are at high-risk areas also have to test for COVID. Those are the various reasons. So what do you expect when you go for testing? I always see there's a clip they use in the media every time when they're doing the nasal swab. That's quite scary. This test is not painful, but it is uncomfortable. That is the truth. When you've grown up in the village and you have an insect suddenly go into your nostrils, that's the feeling. But it is not painful. So when you go for testing, the swab is done through the nose and through the throat. So this one, Daktari and I will tell you, we'll go through real-time PCR. That's more technical, so I'm not going to go into that. And by the way, that is the reason why the cost becomes so high. Because when you have to travel today and you want to get a result in a hurry, you go somewhere, you're told 10,000 shillings. You wonder, this 10,000 shillings, nini niyo wanafanya? It's the reagents that are expensive, unlike the other tests. So, after you've done the test, what happens when you get a positive result? I remember Madam's question because of the phone call. So, as soon as the results are out, the health workers will contact you. Okay? So most of the times, like when a friend goes for testing and they say, oh, sijapata result, we ask them, umepigiwa simu na serikali? Because it's a common thing that's happening right now. The reason why the phone call is being done first is to tell you about your status and to do something we call contact follow-up. Whom have you been close to? At work, at home, in the community? just to do a follow-up to make sure they are safe. Then they also tell you how to take care of yourself, how to do home-based care for yourself, what to look out for, and whom to reach out to. Usually they assign you a health worker who's supposed to call you every 24 hours to monitor your progress in case you need rescuing. Then after that, the contacts, the people you've been in touch with, either when you're having meals or in a situation where you're not protecting yourself using a mask, will have to be tested to check their status. If they're positive, there's a follow-up that will be done over time. And they're also informed of your situation so that they know. I think this is part of where the issue comes in when it comes to the psychological effects, because maybe you don't want them to know, but they know. Now some people are already looking at you as if you have leprosy, but it's just a way that is working for the health system because this pandemic is a bit overwhelming. So usually, like when you have people you're working, you're in close contact with, who have been called, the first thing is to identify who are these. Is it your family, your workmates, your churchmates? They are listed down. Then they are called. Then they are tested. Then they are discharged as being negative or positive. If they are positive, their contacts are also followed up. So that is something that happens in contact tracing. So, next slide, please. There are various effects that COVID has had in the community. One, it has affected the education sector, the public sector, the church, and the social economic status. So, on education, we know what's been happening. From March 15th, children have been at home. Some of these children come from very poor background where they're depending on the lunch that was being given in school. Now, right now, we are having a lot of problems coming in of malnutrition because some of the children are not getting that food. Then there's disruption also that is affecting the teachers. Some teachers who are working for private schools right now don't have salaries. They've not had salaries for a while. It's not easy to bring up a family in time of COVID and you are a teacher. It's not easy. Then there are issues of loss of learning time, homelessness, nutrition, economic crisis, childcare challenges if you are a full-time working parent, and now you are depending on having your child in school so that you can be able to work. That also is a complication that's there. Then there's the issues of increased teenage pregnancies, financial costs. If you're having teenagers and preteens, these people eat a lot. Somebody can do 1.5 loaf of bread, and if you're not ready, it will be a burden to you. When you cook mabuoni for them, they don't want anything like that. They don't want nduma. They just want bread. So this can be costly. Then there's sexual exploitation. That's there. We are having a lot of minors being raped because of this. When you're entrusting a neighbor to take care of your child, you find that they are more of a monster than a help to you. In the health sector, we are having a lot of burden when it comes to deliverance of services. Right now, we are having like issues of ARV uptake, because a lot of people are not having their ARVs because of the issues of shipment. The flights are limited and what, so, and also some people don't want to go to hospital because they're fearing they'll go and find that they're positive for COVID, and they don't want to go through this. Take up of routine immunization. Right now, a parent with a small child will say, nikitoa mtoto nje, atapata COVID. So you find the children are lagging behind in routine immunization. What happens when this occurs? Right now in our neighboring Somalia, and you know, like we are having people who have a one stop from Mogadishu to Isili, okay? Somalia are having something called circulating vaccine-derived polio, which causes paralysis to children just like any other type of polio. So they're moving up and down. So this is also bringing a risk, because if at the end of the day, a child comes to Nairobi, to Isili, and your child has not been immunized, and they mingle, what will happen? Your child will be exposed to danger. So this is some of the things we are seeing in the health sector as a strain. Then there's a lot of abuse of antibiotics. A lot of people are doing Dr. Google. They're doing self-prescription. You feel sick, you prescribe, you buy, you take. You don't know the dosage. You don't know the type of infection you're having. You're just taking medication. Then, effects on the church. I'm going to put it in two categories: long-term effects, short-term effects. In the short-term effects, I'm talking about 2 to 15 months, give or take. So there's the interruption to our normal way of doing things. Under normal circumstances, you don't sit like this in church. People usually are more together. Then right now, there's this thing of a particular age bracket, they're not allowed to go to church. So it's very hard to care for the seniors and knowing what they're going through. And you know, human beings are social beings. Right now, you're in Nairobi, you're locked up with your children in Nairobi. You're hardly taking time to go see your parents. And it's not good psychologically for them. So this one is also affecting the church. And then there are those people who are vulnerable. You find somebody who's affected by cancer, diabetes, hypertension, those category of people who are called high risk for COVID. It's very hard to take care of them, because most of the times you're thinking, oh, if I go there, I might expose them, because I don't know whether I'm exposed. But what are they doing? They're lacking your support as the church. Then church attendance is having a lot of fluctuation. Even the pastoral visits, going to homes to check how members are doing, that one is not there. Then people are shell-shocked. She talked about it, and tired because of just being on your own. Then finances are tight. I don't think Sadaka is the same as it used to be. And this is really bringing a burden. Then at the end of the day, it affects the church in how they hire the staff who are working for them, okay? You find the church has run a whole month, the end of the month has reached. They don't have enough money to pay their staff. This is a challenge that's there. And then these short-term missions, which I talked about, the visitations. Right now, people have to really cut costs on that. And these are things which are spiritually growing to the members of the church themselves. For the long-term effects, you see, churches will change the way they use their finances and start adapting to a more lenient budget. Then churches will end up adapting a hybrid ministry models like we are having today, where we are having a few physical and the rest watching through the air, because it's not easy to just bring everyone together. The space is small, and the regulations require that you give people social distance. Then there'll be an issue of trust. Every time somebody is coming towards you, you wonder whether you want them near you or not. Then the issue of staff is still there, but at the end of the day, we still need Jesus more than ever, okay? It doesn't change. So the key actions, what do you do as a church? You need to talk to your members. Let them know that in case somebody has tested positive, there'll be a follow-up, so that it's not something that is strange. Before, people are fearing the issue of quarantine. Now there's no issue of forced quarantine. You can do home-based care, unless you need medical attention. Then there's still continued follow-up of high-risk areas. That one is there, and vulnerable population. Then there are rules and regulations that the government has put in place, wearing masks, social distance. Those things remain the same, and it's the church to remind their members every other day. Then there's a phrase I would want to say, where one member suffers, all suffer. Today in church, don't think if a member has tested positive, it's their problem. It's all our problem. Undugu idumu, we keep on supporting our members and making sure they are okay, because it's a difficult normal, and we have to deal with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ari, for that technical, a bit more scientific. We've now seen the facts and the figures. But maybe I should just ask one more question so that you can comment on some of the issues that are bothering our people. I'm sure they are. For example, when are Kenyans going to see the vaccine that they see other countries are starting to receive?
Wow, the vaccine, it's very hard because it's very hard for me to comment on when, in terms of timelines. You know, in the Ministry of Health, you find that Kemri is a smaller fraction than the larger. But there's a rollout, there's clinical trials going on. So we hope soon, because the biggest problem that we are having, a lot of these European countries, the superpowers are giving themselves priority to get the vaccine. So for our level, we are still waiting, but we are still in the list. Yes.
Thank you. Let's start with online. Do we have a question from our viewers online? We start with you this time. I'm not seeing any hand up online. I know there was a hand for the earlier session. We'll come back to it later. Let's go back to the audience, the town hall audience. Do we have a microphone running? Give it to our member.
Praise God.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Daktari. I just have a few questions here. Number one, after I've been tested and maybe found positive, who decides that I'm supposed to go for home-based care or I'm supposed to be in the hospital? Number two, and when I'm in the, at what time, if I'm at home, at what juncture do I go to the hospital? As you're telling us that maybe there's somebody who's supposed to follow us, to follow up when I'm at home. So maybe you just tell us that if I'm at home, then what am I supposed to do? And when I'm supposed to go to hospital, who decides that I'm supposed to be taken to hospital? And also tell me when I'm at, while at home, what am I supposed to do? Because sometimes you wonder, you are at home and you're just told that wewe sikia tu, wewe jihisi tu vile unasikia. Anza kucount siku, unaanza siku ya kwanza, siku ya pili, and you start getting tortured mentally because you have children in that home. You have other people who are in that house and you don't know how to go about it. So kindly just tell us, nikikuwa pale nyumbani, how am I supposed to treat myself or how am I supposed to behave? And also, if anything happens, like maybe today we'll be tested and we are going to back to our homes tomorrow. So are we going to get the results before then? Ni hayo tu, barikiwe.
Thank you. We'll do one question at a time. I can answer the last one. If you test you today, you'll get the results on Monday evening. Because this is weekend, so they'll be analyzed Monday morning. The question is hospital care versus home-based care. Who decides and what should I do in both sides?
Okay, what the government has given options. You see, depending on the situation you have at home, you can be advised to take hospital or home-based care. Now, the situation here is this. You see, when you test positive, you're supposed to self-isolate, meaning you have a room that is self-contained with a bathroom and toilet that you don't share with the rest of the family. You have your own utensils that you're using. When the family eats, you serve your food and eat on your own, okay? You have to stay with your mask on when you are at home, when you're mingling with your family. So these particular precautions that are there, if you are not able to do them from home, then you are told to actually isolate yourself from your family. You opt to go to an isolation facility. But if you have a master end suit and you can keep to yourself, every time you hear you're not feeling normal, there are various symptoms that are coming, not only the issues of difficulty in breathing, temperature. There are some people who experience issues like their stomach or some unexplained fatigue, okay, where you're feeling like, there's a time you can have malaria until you feel your knee joints and your hand joints are just weak, you feel like you cannot stand. It's also a symptom that has come up with COVID. So when you hear that which is not normal, you're supposed to check yourself in hospital, the nearest hospital. Most of the times the health worker who's checking on you on a daily basis will keep asking you, oh, is there any new symptom? What are you feeling? What you tell them will advise whether you're going to hospital or not.
Thank you. And Dr. If someone has recovered, can they be reinfected? Will the symptoms be the same?
Probably, or slightly. There's some people who've been reinfected and have lesser symptoms, and other people more severe. So, because this is a virus, viruses change on a daily basis. As it keeps on multiplying in the body, it changes the form. So the virus that infected you in the first place will not be looking the same as the virus that has infected you again. So your body will have to again start a system of trying to get rid of this virus. So the symptoms may vary because the virus has changed. So yes, you're infected.
Now, from a gentleman, do we have an online question?
Yeah, there is an online question.
Let's take the online question.
Agri Kivisi, or via following us via YouTube, is asking, wearing hand gloves is highly discouraged, especially by hospitals. They encourage hand sanitizer as the safest way. To some of us, sanitizer material reacts and affects our skin. What is your take?
Dr.
Okay, you don't have to use a hand sanitizer. Soap and water is an option. Soap and water is good enough.
So works well, but remember we were trained. You follow those procedures. Next question. Let's take from our elder here.
Thank you. I'm Abel Amuyunzu, the Quakerman. I know Kenya has a lot of accomplished scientists, and they have done a lot in the development of vaccine on viral infection. So far, where are we on the local scene? Because we are hearing of the vaccine which are already developed in other countries. So on the local scene, where are we in developing a vaccine?
This is a direct hit on us. How far are we in developing a vaccine locally? Dr. I'll let you handle that one on our behalf.
Thank you very much. I'll talk for Kemri. Let me be a bit selfish, if you allow. Yes. There's a collaboration we are having with the University of Oxford to develop vaccine in Kemri Kilifi. It's still undergoing trials because before any drug is given to a human being, it goes through various stages of trial. So we're in clinical trials right now. So we are hoping soon it will be out.
Thank you. You've heard we have developments with Kemri. And remember, developing these vaccines are global collaborative efforts. They are very, very expensive exercises, so we should ask our governments to put in more resources. A question at the back. Yes, my colleague there. I'll come to Nakuru after that.
Yeah, my name is Kennedy Mudave from Mombasa. My question is, how you find in most cases in urban areas, those people who stay there, who work there, are low-income earners who stay in what we call self-contained houses, where you find a bedroom, sitting room, and whatever in the same room. Now you have been diagnosed with the COVID-19. How do you isolate yourself with your family?
Thank you. You write that. Let me take one more, Daktari. I go to Nakuru.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daktari. My name is James Mwabila. My question is on the issue of results from various testing agents, which actually give different results. Maybe, Daktari, how do you explain that? Same condition, negative, positive. Number two is on the aspect of asymptomatic carriers. Is it driven by age? Can people of my age, for example, still be asymptomatic? Yeah, I think if you may just offer some explanation to that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Daktari, you can take up the three. One is wondering if you have a small house, how do you undertake home isolation? And then now we have...
Okay, thank you very much. Well, that's a challenge even for health workers to deal with when you're talking about the slum areas and positivity. That is when we encourage people to do the isolation that is offered by the government, because it's very hard not to risk your family when you're actually living in a one-room house, because most of the times you find with these one-room houses, the toilets are shared outside. So it's a challenge for these particular people. They have to go for isolation. And these are usually covered by the government hospitals for such cases. When we talk about results being different for various agencies and testing the same person, we have realized some testing centers use more than the basic one we use 2 parameters for testing. I don't know about IPR, I think they do the same. There's some people who test up to 4 parameters. You're looking for different genes of the virus to test. These are like different parts of the virus. When you're having a lot of parameters, you have a higher possibility of having a false negative, because you're seeing this one is negative, this one is negative, this one negative, you say it's negative. But right now the government has tried to harmonize and set the parameters that are being used so that people are not having very big variabilities. Because you'll find, like today, IPR, if they're using the same kit and the same parameters as us, if they say it's positive, it will most likely be positive in Cambridge. But when you go to Lancet, when they're using 4 parameters of testing, they might say you are negative. But for us, we'll say you are positive. So what we are looking for is what is the active site of the virus that causes infection. Is it positive? Yes, then that is positive. I think that is what is bringing variations. Then another issue, we have realized sometimes when you're picking samples from a public place and taking them to a public testing site, we have had issues of mishandling of samples. You find somebody speaking, they've just put it in the cool box, they've not closed the cool box. By the time it reaches the lab, the integrity of the virus has gone down. So when it comes to the lab, we'll test you negative because the virus has died along the way. But when you go to a different place where they're picking it from the lab, putting it in the fridge directly, and they find you positive, it's because they have maintained the integrity of the virus. Then asymptomatic carriers, those are many in the population, different ages. It doesn't really, it's not specific to a particular age. So having asymptomatic carriers is possible, and it's there, and it's the most common. Yeah.
Thank you. I can comment a bit more. We use the same type of kits with Camry. And these kits, they test for 3 things. So we say 3 genes, 3 DNAs. One of them will confirm that the sample is from a human being, so that you don't have purpose becoming positive like our neighbors. The other one confirms that it is a coronavirus. And the final one confirms that it's a COVID-19 virus. So there are some kits that test like two genes. And when you use different kits, you are likely to get different results. For example, just imagining if your kit is testing coronavirus and does not have the internal control for COVID-19, then even if you pick a normal coronavirus, because some of the normal flu is caused by coronavirus, they could pick coronavirus that are not COVID-19 and call it positive. Now the result outcome are also in 4 phases. We have invalid, inconclusive, positive, and negative. So if you mishandle a sample, for example, it will become invalid. When we find it inconclusive, then we run again, we repeat the samples, because it has to be clearly positive or negative. Thank you. I need to pick a lady this time. So media, you're saying that we pick 3 questions before we go to answering. Okay? We'll just pick 2 questions and close. We'll pick a lady at the back and then a Quaker man in front, and then we check if something online, then we go back to our speaker. At the back, the lady in blue. Sorry, I don't know your name. You'll introduce yourself.
My name is Betty Amesa from Kabete. Thank you, Daktari, for your enlightenment. My question is, there comes some times of desperation. For example, you have a patient who is COVID, you are suspecting the patient to be COVID. You take this patient to a facility, you are told that it's full, you are forced to take your patient home. So this comes the times of desperation. At this time, to avoid the misuse of the antibiotics and stuff, what would you advise that one would do? Like, for example, what medication would do meanwhile waiting to take the patient to the hospital? Thank you.
Welcome on.
For the panelists, hamjambo wote. My name is Douglas Makacha from Donholm. I would like to know, suppose I'm infected, what do I do in terms of prevention or to take care of myself? Because one, you have to eat, you have to take some medication. What do I do? Do I go to the nearest chemist and take the Panados? Do I go to the market and take all the muarubainis and the other concoctions? What do I do? Because now, in our environment, there is a lot of stories about what you should take. Thank you.
Yeah, so Quakerman's question is very interesting. what preventive and maintenance medication, drinks, and lifestyle should we take? Do we have a question from the online audience? Time to cover all the questions from all of you. So we'll allow the experts to give us feedback to the last two questions, and then we go to our last question. Karibu Daktari.
Thank you. I'll start by answering the question from Douglas. Wear a mask. Cover your nose. You're not covering it. That's one of the lifestyle things you have to change. Social distance, washing your hands frequently, and taking a lot of fruits, taking rest if you need it, and taking zinc. Zinc you can get from malenge. Malenge is good for men, good for babies. So, Douglas, kula malenge. Then, I'll go to Betty's question, where you're having a patient and facility is full. Usually, this is something that has become very common because of county capacities, and people are found to be in the queue for long waiting for hospitalization. The thing that has been common for people to use as in home-based cares are vitamin C, zinc, having painkillers for taking care of the fevers, because this is a virus. What you're doing, you're just taking care of the symptoms. Viruses are not treatable. So you just make the symptoms better. Some people recommend that you take amoxil. Some people tell you to take a combination of amoxil and another antibiotic. Those are the common things that are recommended, but it will depend on what your doctor says. Yeah.
Thank you, Daktari. Let's appreciate Daktari for her communication. Thank you, and I repeat again, you can send us your questions, then we'll give back a written feedback. Let me go to our third question, and I will request Sister Edith to be the first one to give it a try. That is, what is the place of pastors and leaders in mitigating the effects and levels of preparedness of the pandemic in a collaborative way? Sister Edith. What is the role of leaders and pastors? How should leaders and pastors collaborate to ensure there is better preparedness for mitigation purposes?
Okay. So the role of the pastors and leaders in mitigating these, like focusing on the psychological effect, I would say that it is important as a church from the leadership side first to look at the pastors. Before we even look at their roles, we need to look at them and see how well are we taking care of their mental health. And these are some of the things that I've come up with, that as a church we need to entrench the psychosocial support program in our constitution. I know we have the social commission, which I happen to be a member in my local church, but under the social commission we deal with social issues, but we assume the pastors are going to take care of the psychological issues. So one way of incorporating this component into our constitution is ensure that our pastors go through what we call psychological counseling skills training. I appreciate our pastors have done pastoral counseling, and they've done a lot in terms of counseling our members, but we need that aspect of the psychological counseling, even at a basics level, so that when members run to pastors to share their personal issues and their struggles, pastors are able to even be able to assess, to be able to pick out some of the mental health challenges and be able to refer them. Because not all issues are spiritual issues. It is good to pray. I'm a Christian, I believe in prayer. We need to pray as we go through the psychological support or even medical intervention. Another aspect is we need to incorporate the counseling services under the Constitution for our pastors especially, and of course our leaders too. But I'm keen on our pastors because if our pastors are mentally healthy, the effects trickle down to the members of the church. So with this counseling services aspect, our pastors will be able to be real with themselves if they feel they're also struggling because they carry heavy burdens of their members. They also have personal issues. So if they get to a level and they feel that they're struggling, they can be able to reach out and get psychological support from an external person. It doesn't have to be a member of the church for confidentiality purposes, but we get someone who is trained to be able to be working with our pastors. Most of the time as leaders, we focus on looking at how pastors are preaching and we say we have a good pastor or not, but we rarely take time to assess their mental health. So it is very important for us to look at those two components. Another key component that I would talk about as a role of the leaders and the pastor is to relook at the component of premarital counseling. I think as Friends Church, we are doing premarital counseling, yes, but I would request that we take a closer look at the manual that we are using, because you find that if our families are struggling, and they're struggling because the foundation is not well equipped. Many people who go for premarital counseling, you find them struggling within the first 2 months. Would say that as NYM, we need to look at the manual and standardize. Be sure what is being done in Langata is the same thing done in Buruburu. We need to look at the content. The challenge, the current or modern challenge of couples is not the same as the traditional couple challenges that they had before. So we need to relook at the content. We need to relook at the people that are taking our members through counseling. I know as a commission, as a NYM, we have very few registered pastors to officiate marriages. Just like that, we can also identify very few pastors and they be trained in premarital counseling so that as NYM, we know we have 10 or 20 registered premarital counselors. The reason why, I know people are wondering why I'm so keen on marriages and we are talking about COVID, it's because during this period, our fallback could have been the family. But we are struggling because our families are also shaking. If I lose my job, I can't run to my family. I may not run to my spouse because he's not supportive. So if we look at the family as a church and then try bring up stable families from that premarital stage, we'll be able to solve some of these. We'll be able to mitigate some of these psychological challenges that we are going through.
Thank you, thank you. That is quite inspiring. Let's hear from our leaders and pastors. Clearly, the leaders are supposed to develop the policies and also provide the resources for prevention and protection. But now, can we get experiences from at least a pastor and a leader who has been in the mix of this COVID to ensure that their sanctuary is meeting the guidelines and providing the services to members? Do we have a volunteer? One pastor and one leader. Yes? Can we give him the microphone, please? We get experiences from our own. So are you a leader or a pastor? A leader. Who is the volunteer pastor? Then the GS. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I, as a presiding clerk of my local church, I know...
Which church? Which church?
That's Kangemi local church.
One of the largest local churches in Nairobi yearly meeting.
Yeah. And I know I have a large number and a smaller church. What I decided, we embraced the online, and we decided on a number that will accommodate the 1.5, and it is first come, first served. If you come and find that the church is full, with the due respect, go back home. No children in the church, no elderly in the church. And after, we normally conduct 2 services. The first service starts from 8 to 10. The second service from 10 to noon. And then maybe if you want to accommodate the teens, it runs from noon to around 2 there. And strictly adhering to COVID rules, sanitizing the church, and all those.
Let's hear from the GS. Then we finish with my brother, whom I call Nakuru. The clerk of Nakuru monthly meeting.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Amen. I want to respond to the very positive contribution that has been brought to us by our sister, Edith. I want to say this. One of the things that we have realized through experiences is that families are not crumbling because of lack of knowledge. But it is because of, number one, people are marrying for different reasons. Today, what we have realized is some people are not marrying even to stay in life until death. Some of them are marrying for different reasons. Others is for business, and others is also strategic. And so I want to say that as we look at the manual, and I like what she said, looking at the present contemporary situation of marriage, the people who are coming together in marriage, one might be genuine and another one is not genuine. And that is the major problem I have realized through experience today. And that is why after 2 months or 3 weeks, you find there is a problem in that marriage, because one of the eggs that was brought together, one was a bad one. And when one bad egg comes together with a good one, the result is a bad omelette. That is the reason today. I also wanted to say is that the churches, the Friends Church today, the churches we have in Nairobi early meeting are struggling to observe the COVID-19 guidelines. And one of the major reasons that our churches are struggling, very many churches have more numbers than the space they have. Some of the members have stayed at home for long until they want to come to the church kwa lazima. They're saying, I can no longer continue being at home. You are telling me to be at home? Well, there is no space, sisi tumekuja. That is one of the challenges the church is facing today. The churches that are doing well are churches which had worked earlier on their space. But if you don't have enough space in the current situations, you find that people are almost even squeezing in our churches. And that is one of the challenges that we will be forced to address. Thank you.
Thank you. So pastors are facing the challenge of members insisting they have to come to church even when our churches don't have enough space. Let's hear from the clerk Nakuru monthly meeting, then we come back to the podium. Give him a microphone, please. And I hope, clerk, you can summarize. You've heard the bell.
Thank you very much, Dr. I want to agree with the presenter, the psychologist there, that yes, this is an area which is actually uphill in our ministry. From the perspective of the pastors and similarly to the church members. And speaking to the pastors are everything in our church. They go to bury, they marry, they counsel, and as many other things. But there is nobody who is standing in the gap for these pastors. Because you'll agree with me that when you are a counselor, at some point you also need to be spoken to. This is a matter that should really be introduced and be emphasized, because this is the new way of doing things. There is a lot of dynamism in our society. The young people, the older people as well. Life has changed. and we should be able to address psychological issues, because this is the challenge, the biggest challenge that we face as families and NYM as well. And I also wanted to speak to the church that yes, psychological issues. The other day, a colleague of mine told me he went into his young boy's room to look for something, and interestingly, he found there a condom, a matchbox, and what else? This drug for enhancing energy. What is it called? Viagra. Christians, good people, friends, we have no idea what our children are doing, and these are psychologically driven issues. I cannot agree more with the presenter there that this is a matter that we must address urgently. Thank you.
Thank you. So, congregation, I'm hearing that the pastors should be considered as frontline workers in the fight against COVID-19. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because the challenges they are facing, they are similar to other frontline workers. So we will appeal upon Daktari here also to present the case for us that even our pastors to be considered frontline workers in the fight against COVID. Remember, when we get the vaccine, frontline workers should be in front in receiving it. Daktari, I want to come to you with a small question. And after that question, you give me your parting shot before we can leave. The issue of masks. We have all shapes, types, sizes, and we also have the issue of cost. Can you tell us something small on about masks, how we should handle them, whether we are doing the right thing, how we can access them better? And then after that, you give me your parting shot.
Okay, we have various types of masks. A lot of people are having the surgical masks, like what I'm having. I can see the N95 in the room. I'm seeing cloth masks. I've not seen the sponge masks. There's some masks made out of sponge. Now, usually the main purpose of you having a mask is to put a barrier between your spit and the other person's face. Okay? Now, the different masks have different abilities in reducing the spit. When you're having the surgical masks and the N95 mask like Brother Sise is having, like that one, you see they have a polythene layer that will kind of prevent the spit from coming out. When you're having a cloth mask, like our brother with the maroon one, and our sister with the black one there, they also still arrest spit to some level, but they will still give a little bit of emission depending on the strength at which you are talking. When you are talking and you are projecting your voice more, it means at the end of the day, you're having more spit coming out. So, because there are different challenges when it comes to accessibility of masks, affordability of masks, and availability of different masks. You see, like in the local market, my mask is probably between 30 and 50 shillings. Brother Sise's mask is between 500 and 860 shillings. A cloth mask is between 30 shillings and 200 shillings. But the cloth mask is rewashable, the others are not. Just try to put distance. If you have to use a cloth mask, which is cheaper and recyclable, ongeza distance between the person you are talking to, just to make sure you don't get exposed and you don't expose the other person. Because I'll not tell you this mask is better than this. It depends on what is available for you. But usually, when it comes to the cloth mask, the protection is a bit low, so the distance has to be longer. Yeah.
Give me your parting shot.
My parting shot A lot has been done, a lot has been said about COVID. The issue remains the same. When it comes to social distance and wearing masks, those are things you have to do. Hata kama unachoka, you can stay at home if you don't feel like you need to go to the public and wear your mask, but please keep your masks on because it's for your own good and for the good of your neighbor.
Thank you. Thank you. Edith?
Oh, let me add something before she speaks. And then if you're not going to church, please support the church in offering. There's some people who don't send their pay bills that are out there that are given by the church for contribution. Please do that. The church is really struggling when it comes to the ones who are building, when it comes to paying for their loans, paying for their workers. Please give your offering.
A COVID expert is reminding us to ensure that we give our offering. It must be very serious, isn't it, members? Let's encourage each other to do that. The pay bills, all our churches have. Parting shot, Eddie.
Okay, thank you. Before I give my parting shot, I want to request a second just to introduce my husband.
You allowed?
Yeah, I came with my husband. He's up there. It's called Joel Bilauni Mahanu.
We appreciate you, Joel.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so back to my parting shot. I want to say this. There is no help without mental health. And as leaders, as pastors, as members, you cannot draw from an empty cup. You have first to take care of your mental health so that you're able to reach out and help other people when it comes to mental health. You should not die alone. There are many people willing to help. Just be genuine when you're struggling, whether you are a pastor, whether you are a leader. Don't die alone. Don't die inside. It's worse to die an emotional death than even the physical death. Let's be real with ourselves because we are Christians and face this head on. People are very willing to support. May God bless you all as we continue to journey on this journey of COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's appreciate Edith. Thank you all. You've been a very wonderful audience. My parting shot is a bit different. We are having the testing immediately after lunch. When the team comes, we will tell you where they will pitch tent. Admin, have you decided where they're going to pitch tent? Yeah, so I'm sure they have come around, we'll pitch tent. So make sure that you visit so that you can know at least your status. And it will be a big plus to our report if we can attach the COVID status of our members who came to the congregation. I'm sure that will add value to the quality of the report of the clerk to the Attorney General. So we welcome you to the testing in the afternoon. It is free, and we promise to give you results early next week. We will agree with the clerk and the administrative secretary on how we transmit the results. But my proposal will be that I give the results to the administrative secretary, and then she can deal with the logistics on how the results can reach you and through which medium. Okay. I hear you. I hear you that the results are personal. But I assure you there will be many of you struggling to reach us to find out how they will get their results. So if you want us to keep quiet with the results and you look for them yourselves, that's fine. But at the end of the result of the day, the clerk here is responsible for those results. If I test and I have results, my role as assessing center is to give the results to the clerk, and then the clerk handles the confidentiality aspects because he's our leader. Otherwise, you will all be calling my technical staff in the lab wanting your results. You will cause them emotional stress. You can also try to reach me. If you are able to reach me, I will give you individualized results. But it's important that we have that record hidden somewhere where it can be officially accessed. And it is none other than our clerk. You can't have each of you having to go to the center to follow up. If we were to do that, then Kemri would be getting 100,000 calls every day for. The results are communicated through an organized channel. Confidentiality is maintained. Your clerk is a steward enough not to go leaking information about the results. So at the end of the day, even if I give you your individual results, they will be on my server, and a copy should be with the clerk. Brother Mbesh. Precisely.
Yeah, because
he's saying he has done several times, you get it on email. Yes, you will get it on email, but that master record will be available somewhere. Pardon? You want it just to remain with us and direct to your email? Pastor, can we hear you? It's good we discuss this. Let's agree on this. Pastor, can you give Pastor a microphone? Even if they have loud voices.
I want to say my opinion. Once you have an office in place, it means you have entrusted that office, you believe in that office, and they take mandate on your behalf. So I don't see why the reports should not be sent through the office. Then the office can send it through to our emails. I think that is a good planning, and we will look an organized church. That is my opinion.
Another opinion at the back? Yes? Give me, yes?
There's an online opinion from Senator Gertrude Musuruve.
Yes.
She's saying, let the results be communicated by medics. Confidentiality is with the medics because of Hippocratic oath. So they say, that is from Senator Gertrude Musuruve.
Yeah, let's hear another opinion.
Excuse.
Let's listen, let's hear others as well. We hear you, yes?
I'm partially supporting what Mama is saying.
Yes.
But I also think through the office, we can do it through the QCC chairs or the QCC pastors. Or the, listen, I think that is my opinion, so listen. Listen to my opinion. Maybe through the QCC pastors, so that we also reach to our members, we encourage them, we pray with them, and this will continue.
Give him an opportunity to give his. And then, the views are the ones that are improving our position. Listen to each other, please.
And then I request that we have our counselor. She should give her number to the delegates, so that in case she's needed, she can give the services.
Thank you. You can get a number through the administrative secretary. There's your neighbor there.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't see the issue. If there are those that want the results to be sent to them privately, please do it. But for us that we are far or we know, because this is not a matter of death and what. Because if you give my presiding clerk the results and bring me, have no report. I have no issue. If it's positive, then I will deal with it. If it's negative, I will deal with it. So send it. For we that we want, send it. For those that want private, please do it. Let's not that confuse ourselves.
Remember, members, remember that if you are positive, utapata simu kutoka kwa daktari. If you are positive, utapata simu. If you are negative, hakuna hiyo haraka. Thank you, thank you. We hear your opinions. We hear your opinions, and we guarantee you confidentiality. Thank you. So we hear the concern, and we will guarantee you confidentiality. Yes?
Hello? 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 Yeah, some people are doubting. You know, these results are coming in a sealed and confidential envelopes. They are not open to anybody to see. So when the clerk is coming to receive them, each and every result is in its own envelope and sealed and confidential.
We have done this for thousands and thousands of Kenyans, and we have not had any complaint. So we hear your concerns, we will pay attention to them.
Daktari, a last one.
Yeah?
Albert Ambune says, the result should not be a big issue, my friend. We are not in the stigma period. So if positive, we care for each other. If negative, remain safe. Don't we trust each other? And our leaders, I support they go through the NYM office. And one thing I would like to say as a person, this is not HIV/AIDS. This is corona. Corona.
Ni flu.
Hey.
Thank you. Thank you. Pastor. Thank you very much. Oh, the class wants to say something.
Ya, Bwana asifiwe. Hello. Tulia kidogo. Tulieni kidogo. First, I want to thank the expatriates ambao wako hapa, and this is our own. Si ni kweli? Let us thank God for them. Dr. Joan sits on the NYM task force on COVID-19. She is the expatriate ambaye tuliweza kupata na tunataka kusema asante for the guidelines. I want to request the delegates, because of the the presentations that have been done in a very open manner, very precise. I want to recommend that these expatriates, the two of them, to join the task force at the NYM, so that we are able now to deal with the post. You know, we are believing that COVID is coming to an end. But after COVID, there will be a lot of challenges that I've seen them going through. Now, one of the issues that has come out very clearly is the issue of stigmatization. Is it clear? So that issue of stigmatization seems not to be dying. It seems to be bado inafanya hivi ndani ya watu. I want us to really dispel off that issue of stigmatization. Tuelewe kwamba, so ukinyamaza ni kikupata sasa, what do you do with it? It will be a big challenge. So I want to pray that as we bring these expatriates on board, if Stephen will become positive on the testing, which is good, so that I know it, saa ingine wengi wetu tumekuwa maybe asymptomatic, tumepata huu ugonjwa na tumepona bila kujua. Are you aware? So I want to request that in the areas that if any of us becomes positive, we shall engage them so that they can be able to take, to reach to Stephen directly. Sijui kama mnanielewa. So for the purpose to remove the stigma and the fear But I want to assure you that we will maintain confidentiality, because that is part of the integrity of any good leader that is before the church and even in the secular world. I want to pray that that is going to happen. So be free, muwe watulivu, go and do the testing. And I've said I'll lead the pack. And therefore, all of us, msiwe na uoga wowote. Anytime, I was expecting you to tell us it is beginning at
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. And therefore, wherever the tent is, hii compound ni ndogo, tuende hapo, tuweze kujaza na tuweze kupata matokeo yetu. Yatatusaidia. One thing that I must tell you, we are going into the Christmas festive. And anybody next to you, including daktari, is a suspect. Sijui kama mnanielewa. Na tutakapotoka hapa tukienda nyumbani, it will be good when you are traveling, you know yourself uko sawa. Then utakuwa ukitetea mambo haya ukiwa uko katika hali ambayo iko nzuri na tulivu. And therefore I want to really thank you, because it's not easy to get such expatriates sacrifice their time. I know they will be doing very important things at this time, but you have sacrificed just to come and serve God. May the Lord bless you with your families.
And remember to give us your correct telephone number and email address on the form. You will have to fill a form kindly, because we have had challenges, people are giving wrong information, it becomes impossible to give the results. Give your particulars correctly. It will not be used beyond the testing. Asante sana clerk. As moderator, I must say that I've enjoyed your participation, and thank you very much, panelists. You've given us your best. Like they say, we'll still come back to you. And clerk is inviting us to join his task force on post-COVID. We are available, clerk. We will volunteer, because we are part of the team. So thank you very much. Wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year if we don't meet again. And God bless you all.
Thank you so much. Brothers, we need to appreciate our panelists. If it was on KTN, you know this airtime, what it will have costed us. And so we want to appreciate them by a clap of hands. Tuwapigie makofi. Moja, mbili, tatu. Haya, kwisha. Kwisha ni kupiga makofi, wewe. Now, I want to thank God for this opportunity. Panelists, you can now take your seats. Thank you so much. And so we have now confirmed that when you walk out of this church in the corridor, at the far end, there is what we call as the youth hall, and opposite is our boardroom of this center. There is an open field outside there. The tent is already mounted there. That is the place that we will do the testing. Tunaelewana? Na kama ujui bale, please uliza. The way the clerk said, this compound is too small for you to get lost. So it is just outside pale chini. That is where the tent will be for the testing at 2. At 2 p.m., when we come back from lunch, our programs who did not have their conferences this year because of this pandemic will want to engage with a few of their board members, at least also to transact the business of the programs. Tunaelewana? Please, that chance is theirs. They are free to organize themselves. We only have 4 programs. The Quaker Men, the USFW, the NYAF, who are the youth, and the Sunday school. They will organize themselves on this compound and meet in their respective groups. The instructions are, as they also meet in those groups, they still have a responsibility to observe all COVID-19 regulations. It is not business as usual. You will not squeeze yourself and also begin to talk there without masks. Let us put on our masks even in those meetings for our own safety. The challenge with the COVID-19 test is it is not a certificate you can walk with telling people you are free. You are only free at the time of testing. That is why I want to bring to us that you can test and you are negative. And if you behave carelessly, you can still be positive. Anytime when you do that. So let us continue exercising caution. That is our weapon of faith and also pray. So please let us not act carelessly because you got a certificate. Na uanza kutembea kwa kijiji ukiambia watu mimi niko sawa, hauna mask, unaenda ku assemble without proper guidelines, please, we will be endangering ourselves. So I want us to stand and sing one of the songs that is in our program. And after that, I will ask a delegate from our church at Kongoea to come and bless our lunch, which we will go to take. Maybe we might need to extend, as pastors, the discussion of the mental strength of the front workers of Nairobi Limiting. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. We might require the services of Edith because surely the pastors carry a lot of burdens, not even just COVID. We still need to maintain our mental strength. I was almost forgetting. When we sing this song after that, we will want to give our offering. From a biblical perspective, you never sit anywhere where there is singing and there is preaching and you don't give an offering. An offering is part of worship. And people are known to be saved completely if they are saved together with their pocket. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Kama wokovu hauchakuza wallet yako, basi huo si wokovu kamili ambao Biblia inafundisha. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. So, in fact, as we sing this song, let us sing it as we give so that we don't waste time there. Let us sing this song on our program, What a Fellowship, What a Joy Divine. That is the song that I want us to sing. Yes. And as we sing the song, please, you'll come over and give your offering. Yes. In any of the baskets that are on the altar. If you get any basket that is not on the altar, please do not put your offering there. The only offering basket collection that is COVID-free is that one that is on the altar. So please, you'll come very quietly. And those ones, and those who can use our pay bill number, please. The pay bill number is 944-900.
Stand up,
944-900.
He's soldiers of the
944-900.
Lift up his royal banner. It must not suffer long. From victory unto victory, his army shall lead. is working, and Christ is Lord in this. Stand up for Jesus. He's soldier of the cross. Lift up his own banner. It must burn long from victory to victory. His army shall live. In every foe is working, and Christ is Lord indeed. Oh. Stand up for Jesus. Stand in his strength alone. The arm of flesh will fail you. Ye dare not trust your own. Put on the gospel armor and watching unto pray. When now the call and danger, be never waiting there.
Thank you so much for our giving. Just to remind us, thank you. Our pay bill number is 944-900. Delegate from Kongoya. Thank you so much, Pastor. Come.
Asante. Baba, katika jina la Yesu Kristo, tunakushukuru, tunakuinua kwa sababu wewe ni Bwana. Baba, asante maana fadhili zako ni za milele, mapenzi yako ndio haya. Ya kwamba Jehova, tulipoanza kipindi hiki tumekuuliza ukapate kuwa pamoja nasi. Na kuinua kwa sababu umeonekana katika kila jambo ndani ya kipindi hiki. Hivyo tazama Masia, nataka kutoka mali katika chakula cha mchana, Bwana kapate kuwa pamoja nasi. Bariki ile chakula kwa sababu wewe ni Mungu. Wajakazi wako wametoa sadaka Bwana. Neno lako linasema ya kwamba tukujaribu katika njia hiyo toaje o Jehova. Ndipo sasa mwana wa Adamu kapate kufungua milango na madirisha. Baraka zimiminike hata nafasi ikosekane. Bwana, ombi hili ni kwamba ukapate kuwa Mungu wa magano. Ya kwamba alasiri leo Jehova Rafa unafungua milango na madirisha. Baraka zinamiminika sawa sawa na neno lako. Asante kwa sababu Jehova katika kila jambo siku ya leo. Najua Bwana unaenda kulitenda sawa sawa na ahadi zako. Pokea heshima, pokea adhama, maana hakuna mwingine kama wewe. Kwa jina la Yesu tumeomba na kukuabudu. Amen. Amen.
It's lunchtime. Hallelujah. Yesu